My name is Rachel Forrester, and I'm 32 years old. On paper, I'm the kind of woman loan officers relax around. I make them lean back in their chairs, loosen their ties, and say, "You're exactly the kind of client we like to see." I work in risk assessment. My days are built around worst case scenarios. I get paid to look at a situation, map out all the variables, and predict the most likely outcome. I don't chase adrenaline. I chase probabilities. Clean data, clear models, the quiet satisfaction of watching things unfold exactly as I predicted. Outside of work, my life used to look just as controlled. I own a two-bedroom condo in a decent part of the city. Nothing flashy, nothing that screams for attention. Neutral walls, practical furniture that all passed through a spreadsheet, and at least one coupon code before I ever clicked order. The deed is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. The chipped mugs in my kitchen cabinet sit beside a color-coded budget binder that knows exactly when every bill is due and how much my stomach will drop if my credit score dips even 5 points. For a long time, my relationship looked sensible too. My boyfriend, Andrew Vance, is 29. We'd been together for 3 years, living together in my condo for the last one. The first 2 years were good in that quiet, predictable way I used to think meant safe. Dinners, Netflix, weekend trips, meeting each other's families, a rhythm. Nothing chaotic, nothing dramatic. Then, about 8 months ago, Andrew got a promotion. He landed a shiny new role as a junior marketing manager at a big, buttoned-up insurance corporation. The kind of place that sends yearly calendars and compliance PDFs thicker than Bibles. I was proud of him. I really was. He'd wanted out of his old dead-end job for ages, and this was his big step up. But the new job didn't just change his hours. It changed the way he talked, the way he looked at his phone, the way he looked at me. It started with a name, Grace. Grace was his new boss, the senior VP over his entire division. At first, she was just a character in his work stories. No big deal. I'm all for having mentors and good relationships at the office. I know how career ladders work. But then Grace became the soundtrack of our evenings. Grace thinks my campaign concept is brilliant. Grace took the whole team out for drinks at the Monthly. Grace said my presentation was the best she's seen in years. At first I smiled and said, "That's great, babe." Because it was, sort of. But the sheer volume of Grace talk started to grate. It wasn't just my boss. It was this breathless, glowing monologue about a woman who existed somewhere between role model and celebrity in his mind. I'm not a jealous person by default. My job doesn't survive on insecurity. It survives on patterns. And I could feel one forming. Then, about 3 months ago, the work wife joke started. It was cute at first. Offhand comments dropped like crumbs. "Ha, my work wife Grace brought me coffee again." He said it with this playful grin, waiting for my reaction. I chuckled, because what was I supposed to do? Lecture him about boundaries over a latte? But the joke didn't stay cute. Grace and I are so in sync, it's crazy. We finish each other's sentences sometimes. My work wife says the same thing I do about that client. You know how it is, office spouse. Each time, I'd feel this little flicker of discomfort in my chest, a tiny red flag waving in the corner of my vision. One night, while we were brushing our teeth, I tried to address it. "Hey, Andrew?" "Yeah?" He had toothpaste foam at the corner of his mouth, phone on the counter lighting up with notifications. "The whole work wife thing, doesn't that feel a little weird to you?" He smirked at me in the mirror. "What, you jealous or something?" "It's not about jealousy," I said, rinsing my mouth. "She's your manager, right? There are actual HR rules about that kind of thing. Calling her your work wife all the time, letting her buy you things. It kind of blurs lines." He rolled his eyes. "Oh, come on, Rachel. Don't be one of those girlfriends. It's just an office joke. It's networking. She likes me. That's good for my career." The word girlfriends landed like a slap. I swallowed it down. "Okay," I said. "Just be careful, that's all." He kissed my cheek, still amused, and reached for his phone again. Conversation over. The thing about patterns is that once you see them, you can't unsee them. The late-night team chats, the secretive smiles at texts, the way he'd mention "we" when talking about work ideas and then clarify that "we" meant Grace and I. The way any attempt to ask questions became me being insecure. Then, last week, we went out to dinner. I picked the place. I paid for the Uber. It was one of those small restaurants where the lighting is just dim enough to make everyone look a little softer, like life is something you can edit if you try hard enough. Andrew spent most of the meal on his phone, thumb scrolling, lips twitching in a half smile. Good day at work? I asked, cutting into my chicken. Amazing, he said, not looking up. Grace approved my budget for the spring campaign, and she bought me lunch again. That's like the third time this week. She's the best. My fork hovered over my plate. Third time, I repeated. He finally put his phone down, leaned back in his chair, and gave me this smug, teasing look. Honestly, he said, my work wife is buying me lunch every day. You need to step up. He laughed like he'd just dropped the joke of the century. I just stared at him. All the little red flags I'd been carefully stacking in the back of my brain shifted and clicked into place. Every dismissive eye roll, every "don't be one of those girlfriends," every late-night ping from the team. I could see the pattern now, fully formed. My job is risk assessment, and the risk I was assessing right then was simple. At best, my boyfriend was emotionally cheating on me with his married 40-something boss. At worst, I was the idiot subsidizing his life while he auditioned for a newer, shinier one, and laughing about it in my face. You need to step up. It was such a small sentence, but it tipped something inside me from wobbling uncertainty into perfect balance. A weird calm washed over me, the kind that comes right after a car crash, when you're still in shock and your brain hasn't caught up yet. The hurt was there, raw and deep, but it sat under a thick, steady layer of clarity. I smiled back at him, a small, tight curve of my lips. You're right, I said softly. That's very generous of her. I should thank her. His smirk faltered just for a second. What? I mean it. I lifted my wine glass, held his gaze. It's nice to know someone is taking such good care of you at the office. I'll step up. He frowned. Don't be weird, Rachel. Not being weird, I said. Just appreciative. The rest of dinner passed in near silence. He went back to his phone. I went back to my food and my thoughts. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't beg him to reassure me. I planned. The next morning, while Andrew was in the shower getting ready for another big day with his work wife, I sat at my desk with my laptop. It took me 10 minutes. His LinkedIn gave me Grace's full name, Grace Stilton, Senior Vice President of Marketing. Another quick search led me straight to her husband's very public Facebook page, family photos on a boat, 2 smiling kids, matching holiday sweaters. A life neatly staged for likes. Then I found what I really needed. Andrew's company is publicly traded. That means their corporate governance policies are posted online. A few clicks later, I had an 80-page Code of Conduct and Ethics PDF in front of me. I skimmed until I hit the section I was looking for, personal relationships in the workplace. It was ironclad. Any romantic or personal relationship between a manager and a direct subordinate, critical conflict of interest. Strictly prohibited. Even the appearance of such a relationship could trigger an investigation and disciplinary action up to and including termination. The policy also spelled out that managers giving or receiving excessive personal gifts or benefits to subordinates was a fireable offense. They'd built the entire trap themselves. All I had to do was hand them the string. I ordered a $50 Starbucks gift card online. Then I ordered the blandest, most inoffensive professional thank you card I could find. White with a navy thank you on the front. Corporate greeting card energy. I paid extra for next day delivery. When the card arrived, I sat at my kitchen table and wrote in my neatest, most earnest handwriting. Dear Grace, I'm writing to send a small, sincere thank you for all the support you've been giving my boyfriend, Andrew Vance. He mentions you all the time, especially how you've been kind enough to buy him lunch almost every day of the week. In this busy world, it's wonderful to know he has such a supportive and generous manager looking out for him. Thank you for taking such good care of him. All the best, Rachel Forrester, Andrew's girlfriend. I tucked the gift card inside, sealed the envelope, and addressed it to Ms. Grace Stilton, Senior VP, Marketing. Company name, corporate office. I dropped it in a mailbox on Tuesday. The rest of the week, I was polite but distant. Andrew didn't notice. He was too busy on his phone, working. Friday, 2:30 p.m., I was at my desk, midway through analyzing a spreadsheet about projected losses in a worst-case scenario. My phone buzzed. Missed call, Andrew. It buzzed again. Text lit up the screen. Call me. Call me right now. Rachel, I am not kidding. What did you do? Grace is in a meeting with HR. They called me in. They have your card. Call me now. I stared at the screen for a moment. My pulse was steady. I flipped my phone over, face down, and typed back. In a deep dive meeting. Can't talk. What's up? Then I went back to my spreadsheet. I finished my workday, packed up my laptop, drove home listening to a podcast about economic history, The world outside my windshield looked strangely sharp, like someone had turned up the resolution. When I pulled into the garage under my building, Andrew's silver luxury sedan, the one I had stupidly co-signed for, was parked crooked in his spot. I took the elevator up. My key turned easily in the lock. Andrew was standing in the living room in his full corporate armor, pressed shirt, tie slightly askew, expensive shoes still on, but his face was pale and blotchy. He'd been crying. The second he saw me, he exploded. "Rachel!" he shouted. "What did you do?" "Hi, babe," I said, hanging my keys on the hook like I'd just come back from any normal Friday. "Rough day?" "Don't rough day me," he snapped, stepping toward me. His hands were shaking. I was called into an emergency meeting with HR. Our head of HR was there, Grace was there, and 2 lawyers on video. "Do you know why, Rachel?" I set my bag down. "Why?" "They had a card." His voice broke on the word. "A thank you card. From you. With a gift card in it. Why would you do that? Why would you send that?" I tilted my head like I was trying to remember. "I did what I said I was going to do," I said calmly. I thanked her. "You told me she buys you lunch every day. I was just being polite, showing my appreciation, stepping up like you told me to." "You idiot!" he shouted, and whatever corporate composure he had left shattered. "You don't do that. You don't write it down. You don't send evidence. She's my manager. It's against policy. They think—" He swallowed. "They think there's something going on between us." My eyes stayed on his, unblinking. "Is there?" He froze. The blood drained from his face. In that moment, I saw it hit him. This wasn't some random accident, some quirky, clueless girlfriend mistake. This was a mirror. "What are you talking about?" he said, but his voice had gone thin. "Is there something going on," I repeated, "between you and Grace? Because you've been networking with her for months, letting her buy you things, calling her your work wife. You've been shoving it in my face and mocking me for not stepping up. You seemed pretty proud of it, Andrew." It's not—" "I just agreed with you," I said, my tone still level. "You told me she takes care of you." I sent a polite, professional thank you note, girlfriend to manager, thanking her for her generosity. I shrugged. "What's the problem? Unless that generosity is something you both should have been hiding." His mouth opened and closed. He looked like a fish dumped on a dock. "You," he finally sputtered. "You did this on purpose. You're trying to ruin my career." I shook my head slowly. "No, Andrew. You and Grace did this. You're the ones who violated company policy. You're the ones who disrespected our relationship. I just flipped on the light." "You don't understand," he said, voice rising again, pacing now. "This is my career, Rachel. My future. They've suspended me. Do you get that? I'm suspended pending investigation. If this goes badly, I could be fired. Do you have any idea what that does to my resume?" "Suspended," I repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "Wow. They're taking a $50 Starbucks card really seriously. Must be a very strict policy." He raked a hand through his hair, eyes wild. "You think this is funny? This is my life. You're going to fix this." I leaned against the back of the couch. "Am I?" "Yes," he insisted, jabbing a finger toward me. "You're going to call HR. You're going to talk to the head of HR. Arthur knows her, by the way, so if you don't, he will. And you're going to explain that you're just some jealous, overreacting girlfriend. You're going to tell them you misunderstood. That Grace was just being nice. You're going to say you're unstable or something. I don't care, as long as they believe it and drop this." Something in my chest went very, very cold. "Let me get this straight," I said. "You want me to call your company's legal department and tell them I'm unstable. You want me to lie, on record, to cover for you and your boss." "It's not lying, it's reframing," he said weakly. "You sent the card because you were jealous, right? You were being dramatic. Just admit it. Then it all makes sense." I stared at him. It was like watching a stranger wearing Andrew's face. "No," I said. His head snapped up. "What?" "No," I repeated, clearer this time. "I won't be doing that. I will not lie for you. I will not tank my own reputation to save you from the consequences of choices you made behind my back." He let out an ugly laugh. "Oh my God, you are unbelievable. You're seriously going to let them destroy my career over an office joke?" "This isn't about a joke," I said quietly. "It's about what you were doing while you were making it." He threw his hands up. "I can't believe this. You're insane. You're controlling. You're so obsessed with your stupid risk assessment that you've turned me into some kind of case study." For a second, that stung. Then it didn't. "Andrew," I said, "you mocked me at dinner. You told me your work wife buys you lunch every day and I needed to step up. You let your married manager buy you things. You flirted with her. You crossed lines, you put your career in her hands. I send a thank you card. If that's enough to blow up everything, that's not on me. That's on you and Grace. You're trying to ruin my life, he said again, quieter now, almost stunned. I straightened up. No, I'm trying not to let you ruin mine. He stared at me like he was hearing a language he didn't speak. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. This investigation, that's between you, Grace, HR, and maybe Grace's husband if he's paying attention. It has nothing to do with me. I'm done being part of it. Rachel, don't! And, I said, cutting him off, we're done. The words felt heavy and clean in my mouth. His eyes widened. You're breaking up with me? Now? Yes, I said. Now. I don't want to be with someone who treats cheating like networking and expects me to lie for him when it all blows up. I won't live with someone who can't tell the difference between a joke and a confession. He just stood there, breathing hard. I want you out tonight, I added. What? He actually laughed, incredulous. You can't be serious. I have nowhere to go. You have your parents, I said. You have Zara. You have plenty of people who think you're the golden boy. I'm sure someone will be thrilled to host you while you figure out how to spin this. His face twisted. You can't just kick me out, Rachel. I live here. You stay here, I corrected. You don't live here. The deed is in my name. The bills are in my name. I've been carrying the weight of this place while you chase validation from your boss. That's not fair, he snapped. What's not fair, I said, is being mocked in my own home while you brag about your work wife. What's not fair is being made into the villain for not wanting to be humiliated. I'm choosing fair for myself for once. I walked to the hall closet, pulled out his spare suitcase, and set it on the sofa. The sound of it hitting the cushions made him flinch. You have 1 hour to pack your essentials, I said. We can set up a time later for you to collect the rest of your things. You're actually serious, he whispered. I'm going to go get a burger, I said, reaching for my keys again. When I get back, I expect you to be gone. If you're not, I will call the police and have you escorted off my property. He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. You'll regret this, he said finally, voice low and venomous. You will regret this for the rest of your life. I paused at the door, hand on the knob, and looked back at him. I already regret the last 3 years, I said. The rest of my life is what I'm trying to save. I walked out down the hall into the elevator. I didn't look back. I sat in a booth at a greasy burger place 10 minutes away, my phone face down on the table while I ate in silence. I could feel it buzzing occasionally. Calls, texts, whatever panic looked like in his hands. But I didn't pick it up. By the time I drove back an hour later, the condo was quiet. Andrew was gone. One suitcase missing. A few gaps in the closet where his clothes had been. His body wash no longer in the shower. The air felt different somehow, lighter and heavier at the same time. There was a note on the counter. I didn't read it. I dropped it straight into the trash. The next morning, I called a locksmith. By noon, the locks on my condo were changed. New keys, new codes, new boundaries. Then I did what I do best. I documented screenshots of his texts, my copy of the code of conduct, the receipt for the card and gift card, notes about what he'd said in the argument while it was still fresh in my mind, a paper trail in case his panic turned into something more dangerous. After I had everything neatly organized in a folder on my desktop, I attached it all to an email and sent it to my friend Ben, a contract lawyer I'd known since college. The phone rang 5 minutes later. Rachel, he said, and I could hear him grinning even through the sigh. Wow, this is a lot. Is it bad? I asked, suddenly unsure. Did I go too far? Legally? He said. No, this is beautiful. Plausible deniability all the way. You sent a thank you card. They built the rest of this circus themselves. He paused. Emotionally, he added, how are you really? I looked around at my spotless, echoing living room, at the faint impression where Andrew's sneakers used to sit by the door. I don't know yet, I said honestly. Right now it just feels quiet. Quiet is a good start, Ben said gently. We'll deal with whatever comes next. But just so you know, he and his family, they're not going to take this lying down. I know, I said, my voice steady again. Patterns, probabilities. I'm counting on it. It took exactly 3 days for the quiet to break. 3 mornings of coffee without tension, 3 nights of sleep without the soft blue glow of Andrew's phone lighting up the bedroom. I started to think maybe, just maybe, he was too embarrassed to reach out. Maybe the investigation had humbled him. Then my phone rang. Unknown number, the kind that comes with authority in its tone. I almost didn't answer. But I did. Rachel Forrester? A deep, polished male voice said. Yes. This is Arthur Vance, Andrew's father. I leaned back in my chair. Good morning, Mr. Vance. He didn't bother with small talk. We need to discuss what you've done. My stomach tightened, not out of fear, out of recognition. This was the voice behind Andrew's entitlement, the man who never taught his son that actions had consequences. You've made a terrible mistake, he continued. You've jeopardized my son's career over some petty jealousy. You're going to fix this. I'm sorry? You're going to call his company, he said, his tone commanding. You'll speak to the head of HR, a woman I happen to know personally, and you will explain that you overreacted, that you were being emotional. You'll say it was all a misunderstanding and that you apologize for wasting their time. He paused, letting the order hang there like he was used to people obeying him. You will clear my son's name. I stared out my window. The sky was cloudless, calm. Mr. Vance, I said evenly, with all due respect, no. No? No, I repeated. I won't lie to a company's HR department to cover for your son's behavior. If a simple thank you card was enough to trigger an investigation, then the problem isn't the card. The problem is what he was doing to deserve it. He exhaled sharply, that kind of insulted gasp that only men who've never heard no make. You ungrateful little... Have a nice day, Mr. Vance, I said, and hung up. He called twice more. I didn't answer. The piece lasted all of 24 hours. Act 2 arrived by text message. It was from Zara, Andrew's closest friend. The same Zara he'd spent dozens of nights brainstorming campaigns with over drinks. I'd never liked her. Too loud, too loyal to chaos. Her texts came rapid fire, one after another, filling my screen. Zara, you're an actual monster. Zara, Andrew is destroyed. He hasn't stopped crying. He could lose everything. Zara, all because your fragile little ego couldn't handle him being successful. Zara, he's a star and you're a nobody, and now you've ruined his career. Zara, he can't even make his car payment because of you. It's due in 3 days. Zara, he's going to lose his car and his apartment. Hope you're proud of yourself. I read those last 2 lines twice. Then I froze. His car. The sleek silver sedan that sat crooked in my garage that night, the one he insisted on leasing to look the part at his new job, the one he said he could handle himself, the one I had co-signed for. I'd been so busy dealing with the emotional fallout that I'd forgotten the financial landmine still attached to my name. I opened my budget file, scrolled through the tabs, and felt my stomach drop. I was the primary on that lease. Andrew's credit was shot, so the contract listed me as responsible for full payment if he defaulted. Ben's voice echoed in my mind. He and his family won't take this lying down. He was right, but this time it wasn't about drama. It was about money, my credit, my future. I called Ben. He picked up on the second ring. What's up? I'm an idiot, I said flatly. I co-signed his car. There was a pause, then a low groan. Okay, that's not ideal, but manageable. You're the primary signer, which means you're on the hook if he misses payments. But you also have rights. You can't let him keep possession of an asset that's your financial responsibility, especially when he's unemployed and angry. So what do? You take the keys back or you call the leasing company. Tell them the truth, that the co-signer has possession and is at risk of default. They'll help you reclaim it. This isn't revenge, I said. It's survival. Exactly, Ben said. And you're very good at assessing risk. Treat it like another case file. I called the leasing company that afternoon. I explained everything, calmly, clearly, just like I'd learned to in meetings. I'm the primary leaseholder. The co-signer has possession of the vehicle. He's been suspended from work, vacated my residence, and has indicated he cannot make his payment. I'm not comfortable with him retaining the vehicle. The agent on the other end was surprisingly sympathetic. You're within your rights, she said. We can arrange a voluntary repossession. Voluntary, I repeated. Meaning I'm volunteering his car? She chuckled softly. Essentially. We scheduled it for the next morning. I gave them Zara's apartment complex address. By noon the next day, my phone started vibrating across the counter. Andrew. The tow truck is here, Andrew. What the hell, Rachel? Andrew. You can't do this. You're stealing my car, Andrew. I'm calling the cops. Andrew, pick up your phone. Andrew, how am I supposed to live? How will I get to interviews? I waited a few beats, took a deep breath, and then replied with one final text. That sounds like a you problem, Andrew. You joked that I needed to step up. I'm stepping up. To protect my own finances. You wanted a work wife to take care of you. Ask her for a ride. Then I blocked his number, and Zara's, and Arthur's. I stared at the silent phone on the counter and let the quiet sink in. This wasn't revenge, not really. It was cleanup, risk management in its purest form. The next few days were calm again, unsettlingly calm. I kept expecting another call, another threat, another outburst. Instead, life started to stretch out like something that might be mine again. I worked late. I opened windows. I ate dinner without a screen in front of me. But the story wasn't over. Because people like the Vances don't just let go. When power slips through their fingers, they look for another lever to pull. And I could feel the next one coming, like the faint tremor before an earthquake. It arrived on a Tuesday morning. A thick envelope delivered by courier. No return address, just my name typed neatly across the front. Inside, a letterhead that practically screamed money. Vance, Rothman, and Klein, LLP. My pulse spiked. Arthur Vance, of course. I sat at my kitchen counter, the morning light spilling over the pages, and read, Cease and desist. Malicious and tortious. Interference with a business relationship. Dear Ms. Forrester, we represent Mr. Andrew Vance, who has informed us of your recent harassing and defamatory actions, including but not limited to an unsolicited communication to his employer which resulted in reputational, financial, and emotional damages. Your conduct constitutes malicious interference and defamation, undertaken with the intent to inflict distress and professional harm. We demand that you cease and desist all contact with Mr. Vance, his family, and his former employer. Remit compensation in the amount of $50,000 within 10 business days to offset damages incurred. Failure to comply will result in immediate legal action. $50,000 for sending a thank you card. I laughed, one sharp, breathless sound that felt halfway between disbelief and hysteria. I grabbed my phone, scanned the document, and forwarded it to Ben. Subject line, morning entertainment. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. He didn't even say hello. He was already laughing. Oh my God, Rachel, he said, wheezing between chuckles. They actually did it. They went full bluff. Is it serious? I asked. He composed himself. Serious looking, sure, but it's empty. Tortious interference is almost impossible to prove. They'd have to show you knew your action would get him fired, and that you did it solely for that purpose. Your card reads like something your grandmother would send after a bake sale. It's perfect. So what do we do? I draft a reply, he said. We'll do it on firm letterhead. Make it clear they're not scaring you. And maybe remind them that harassment can work both ways. 2 hours later, he sent me a copy of his response. It was art. Response to cease and desist. Dear Counsel, our client, Ms. Forrester, sent one unsolicited thank you card in a good faith gesture of appreciation to her partner's manager. The subsequent disciplinary consequences experienced by your client and his manager were the direct result of their own admitted conduct and violations of their employer's internal policy. Your client's damages, if any, are the natural and foreseeable outcome of his own choices. Any further frivolous legal threats will be met with a motion for sanctions for harassment and abuse of process. Regards, Benjamin Morris, Askew. He even added a final line that made me snort. Our client does not intend to remit payment for the Starbucks gift card. Ben mailed it certified that afternoon. We never heard back. 3 weeks later, I thought it was finally done. Then came the knock. Saturday morning. I was barefoot, cleaning the kitchen. 3 sharp raps on the door. When I looked through the peephole, my stomach lurched. A uniformed police officer stood there. Behind him, on the sidewalk, I could see Andrew, and further back, Arthur, his arms crossed, face carved from fury. Of course, the Vances didn't know when to quit. I opened the door slowly. Good morning, officer. Ma'am, he said politely, are you Ms. Rachel Forrester? I am. I'm here to conduct a civil standby. Mr. Andrew Vance is here to collect his personal property. He expressed concern that you might not allow him access. Ah, the intimidation strategy. Show up with a cop. Classic Arthur move. I nodded calmly. Absolutely, officer. I've been expecting this, actually. All his belongings are already packed and ready to go. The officer blinked, a little surprised. They are? Yes, I said, stepping aside. Right in the foyer, 12 boxes, all labeled. I gestured to the neat stacks by the wall. Shirts, shoes, cables, everything that had once cluttered my life, now reduced to cardboard cubes of consequence. Andrew's smirk faltered. This wasn't the scene he'd come for. The officer turned to him. You can come collect your boxes, sir. Andrew hesitated, then stomped forward. That's not all of it, he snapped. She's hiding my grandmother's antique desk. The officer frowned. Sir? That mahogany writing desk in the study, Andrew said quickly. It's a family heirloom, worth thousands. She's keeping it. Arthur stepped closer. That's correct, officer. My mother's desk is part of our family estate. She's refusing to return it. I crossed my arms. Actually, I said, it's mine. Arthur scoffed. Excuse me? I bought it, August 2023, Main Street Antique Mall, $2,200. On my card. That's a lie, Andrew barked. Without a word, I took out my phone, scrolled to my emails, and pulled up the digital receipt. I handed it to the officer. He read it carefully. This receipt shows the purchase was made by Ms. Forrester on her credit card. Arthur bristled. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, sir, the officer interrupted, his tone cooling. Ownership of disputed property is a civil matter, not a police one. I'm not here to determine that. My job is to ensure everyone stays peaceful while personal property is retrieved. He turned to Andrew. Take your boxes, sir. Nothing more. Arthur's jaw worked, but the officer's calm authority left him no room to maneuver. So they did. Box by box, they carried Andrew's past out of my foyer under the watchful eyes of the law. Every footstep echoed like punctuation. When the last box was loaded into Arthur's car, Andrew turned. At the door. His face was red, his voice shaking. You'll regret this, Rachel. You'll regret this for the rest of your life. I met his gaze, steady and cold. I already regret the last 3 years, I said, but I'm feeling better about everything after that. The officer cleared his throat, barely hiding a smile. Have a good day, ma'am, he said, tipping his cap. When the door closed behind them, I leaned against it for a long moment. The silence on the other side felt like a wall finally built high enough to keep the noise out. That night, for the first time in months, I slept 8 uninterrupted hours. A few weeks later, I wrote one last entry in the digital journal I'd been keeping. Part therapy, part record. The legal threats evaporated after Ben's response. The $50,000 demand vanished into thin air. I never heard from Arthur's firm again. The voluntary repossession did hit my credit, just like I'd expected. 90 points gone overnight. A price I was willing to pay. The cost of extraction. According to a mutual friend still working at Andrew's company, the investigation ended predictably. Grace kept her job. Barely. Demoted 3 levels, stripped of her stock options, transferred to risk and compliance, corporate purgatory. Her husband filed for divorce. Took the boat, the house, and half her savings. Andrew wasn't as lucky. He was terminated for cause. HR found their chat logs. My card was just the final push they needed. He went home to his parents. Arthur's fury wasn't about morality. It was about embarrassment. Having his name whispered in office gossip circles, losing face. Zara? She kicked Andrew out after a month. He'd freeloaded, eaten her food, cried on her couch, and offered nothing in return. Entitlement doesn't die easily, but eventually it starves. A year later, my life looks different. My credit's recovering. My condo feels like mine again. I sold that antique desk, the supposed family heirloom, got $1,800 for it. I used it to pay Ben and book a weekend in the mountains. I've been dating someone new. His name's Daniel. He's a civil engineer. Practical, kind, quiet. He doesn't text during dinner or make jokes about work wives. When I told him the story one night, the card, the fallout, the chaos, he just blinked and said, "A work wife? That's the stupidest concept I've ever heard. Why would anyone want to be married at work?" I laughed until I cried. Not from pain this time, from relief. I didn't ruin Andrew's life. I simply refused to keep pretending. All I did was send one polite, professional thank you card. They called it revenge. I call it consequence. And for the first time in years, I finally feel free.